Until the 1st of February, I'm excited to be partnering with HelloFresh UK. Get money off fresh meal kits delivered to your door by using the discount link or the checkout code in the description below. Get 50% off your first box and 35% off the following 3, as well as 3 free gifts. If you want to see more from HelloFresh UK, then check out my social medias where I've been sharing my meals the last few weeks. And what's best, if you sign up, you help support the channel and you can cancel at any time. Yes, hello and welcome along to matchday 27 of Championship predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. We're back following the FA Cup third round break and we've got a full fixture list this weekend to look forward to and try and guess the correct scores for. Before that, we have had a couple of very busy weeks on the podcast, a brand new interview with a Hollywood actor, clips from a live FA Cup game, and a little debate about a certain Nathan Jones. If you missed any of those, they're all up in the eye above, as well as our sponsor HelloFresh. Please do check that one out. But before we go and get into this week's predictions, let's go and have a recap of what happened 2 weekends ago in matchday 26 for the New Year fixtures. And the truth of the matter is, it's probably my best performance in a long time. We managed to break into double figures and I did manage to win the match day overall. 2 perfect scores for the 2-1 win by Luton Town at Huddersfield and the 3-0 home win for Millwall against Rotherham. 5 other correct outcomes make it 11 points in total for me, and I should just note down in the comments that a few of you were really let down by a late Preston goal, because otherwise a few of you would have been 3 points higher. But that's all in the past now. That happened an absolute age ago. Let's move on to this weekend's fixtures and we start at Saturday lunchtime with a 12:30 kickoff between Rotherham United and Blackburn Rovers. Rotherham lost 3-0 at Millwall on New Year's Day before being battered by Ipswich of League One in the Cup. It's starting to look like suspicions they might be swapping leagues next year. And Blackburn back-to-back 1-0 wins, first against Cardiff on New Year's Day in the league and then against Norwich in the Cup last weekend. Blackburn still yet to draw a game this season, so we know what result we're not predicting. And Rotherham, no win in 6 since returning from the International World Cup break. They lost 7 goals in their last 2 games. They've not conceded less than 2 in any of those 6. And although Blackburn are a mixed bag away from home, and although Rotherham have added to their defensive ranks with Sean Morrison, you can't predict that either of those things will be enough to see a turnaround. We have watched Blackburn enough in the last few years though. There is every chance they turn up, produce an awful defensive display and just have one of those off days because they're so inconsistent. But you have to back Blackburn to win it. I'm going to go by 2-1, and that's purely because Rotherham just can't stop conceding. On to the 3 PMs and we start with Bristol City versus Birmingham, which is becoming another bottom half clash as it has been for so many recent seasons. Birmingham were beaten soundly by Middlesbrough on the 2nd of January, 3-1 at home, and they were thoroughly outplayed. And to be fair, they haven't had a chance to bounce back as their FA Cup tie was postponed at Forest Green. Bristol City, on the other hand, have become draws galore, haven't won since that first game back after the World Cup. Lots of talk about the big goal-scoring threat up front, Antoine Semenyo. He is out of contract soon and they're going to have to make a decision on him. And Birmingham added to their ranks with Kevin Long and Reda Kadra coming in. 2 very good players at Championship level and sure to bulk up that defence, which have conceded, 9 goals in the last 4 games. 3 defeats in a row for Birmingham. They've got to be careful not to get drawn into that. They're only 3 points above Bristol City, and if the hosts win on Saturday, they will go ahead of them in the league. So I'm not sure what to go for here. I can see Birmingham just eking out a draw. Bristol City have improved defensively, but you know that's never going to last too long. So I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to go for a 3rd successive Championship's favourite scoreline for the Robins, 1-1 at Ashton Gate. On to the only side that remain unbeaten at home in the league this season, Burnley face Coventry City. The leaders won 4-2 against Premier League Bournemouth in the FA Cup after 3 successive wins in the Championship. And Coventry was shocked by National League Wrexham and went down to 10 men in that game as well. It's 4 without a win for the Sky Blues. They're starting to struggle a little bit at the moment, and their away record has generally left a lot to be desired this season, one of the worst ones in the Championship. But Burnley are formidable at home. 29 goals scored, clear of anyone else. They look rampant. Yes, they're going to have a bad spell at some point, but you cannot predict for it to start at home. So Burnley to win comfortably for me. Coventry, bit hit and miss in front of goal. They'll score 3, then they won't score at all. So I'm going to go for a comfortable Burnley win. If Burnley score early here, it could get pretty ugly, but I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to be a little bit more cautious. I'm just going to go for 3-0 because Burnley, they've just been sensational. And next up is a massive relegation 6-pointer as Cardiff City host Wigan Athletic. Wigan, 3 successive 4-1 defeats in the Championship, but stopped the rot with a 1-1 draw at Luton in the FA Cup. They'll have a replay next midweek. And Cardiff, a 2-2 draw against Leeds in the Cup. They almost held on for a win, but before that, no goals in 3 and a 1-0 defeat at Blackburn on New Year's Day. The goals have got to come for Cardiff, but there's no attacking reinforcements yet. Wigan surprised everyone by bringing in Stephen Kulka, who had been playing out in Turkey recently, and Miguel Aziz, a young loan addition from Arsenal, Kolo Toure using his former club links. But this is a game that is crucial in the relegation race. Wigan have hit the bottom of the table, their goal difference is awful, the goals conceded are calamitous, and as soon as they go a goal down in a game, they just look like they're going to collapse. They fold and they don't really show the desire to get back into it. And that's something that didn't often happen under Liam Richardson. They were generally in most games. Cardiff, only 2 points clear of the relegation zone themselves. They need to find some goals sometime soon. For this game, it is a horror show to predict. Neither have won since coming back from the World Cup break. Cardiff have drawn most. Wigan were better away from home under Richardson, but not always the case now. Though based on the fact that their last 2 home defeats were by 4-1, away from home, I'm going to go for them to do a bit better. Championship's favourite scoreline, 1 goal apiece. And next, 2 sides that picked up form a little bit over the festive period. It's Hull City versus Huddersfield Town. Hull lost 2-0 to Fulham in the FA Cup, but were 4-1 winners away at Wigan in the game prior in the Championship. 4 shots on target, 4 goals, and for all the defensive improvements under Liam Rosenior, that was the first time they showed a real attacking intent and a ruthlessness going forward. Huddersfield, on the other hand, narrow defeat against Luton Town at home by 2-1. They then lost to Preston in the Cup, but prior to that, they'd won 2 important games in the league against Preston and Rotherham. And for Huddersfield at the moment, they've now got themselves back in the mix. They were getting cut adrift prior to that, and a couple more wins, they could be right back in the mix. So it is important they try and get results against the side around them, at least avoid defeat if possible. But Hull will be looking the other way at this. They're now 7 points clear of the relegation zone. If they can win this game, they're arguably within 3 or 4 points of the playoffs, depending on other results. Add to that they've bolstered their attacking ranks with Aaron Connolly, albeit Huddersfield have done the same with Canberry, and a good right back for delivery in Matt Loughton. And these are 2 sides that so far look like they've used the January window well. So I'm expecting a pretty good game here. They've generally been involved in a few good high scoring matches. Hull haven't got the best home record. Huddersfield have the worst away record in a league, but they did win that last league match away at Preston. So I think this is going to be a pretty tough one to predict. I'd imagine most will have Hull down as a banker. I am going to go for them to win this game, but only just by 2-1. And next up, it's the game I'll be attending at Kenilworth Road. Luton Town versus West Bromwich Albion. West Brom, one of the form teams in the division, but very lucky in the FA Cup last weekend. Brandon Thomas Asante now banned for 3 games after an elbow in the build-up to his equalising goal there. Both sides are going to have a replay to worry about the midweek after because Luton drew 1-1 at home to Wigan, but in the league, it's been a very different story. 3 successive wins over the festive break for each of them. Luton 2-1 at Huddersfield on New Year's Day. West Brom not conceded a goal in the 3. 1-0, 2-0, 2-0. They're an efficient side. They look so much like Carlos Corberán's Huddersfield side already, and he's doing an absolutely wonderful job there. The winner will likely end the day in the playoffs based on the other games and fixtures, so I don't know what to go for here. Part of me wants to go with my heart and say that Luton are going to get a win, but to be honest, it's the only outcome I don't see happening. It's been a very strange season at home for Luton, struggling to break sides down. 7 draws from their 12 matches and only 3 wins as well. West Brom away from home, well, they haven't been the best, but under Corberán, they seem to be winning every game. I want to sit on the fence and go for a draw, but if I'm being honest, I think West Brom will nick it. I'm going to go 2-1 to the visitors. If it's a draw, I'll be a very happy man. On to another side that are flying under a new manager against another side that continue to fight for the playoffs every season. It's Middlesbrough versus Millwall, and both of these sides had pretty poor FA Cup weekends, but have had a very good festive period overall. Middlesbrough out of nowhere lost 5-1 to Brighton. Alexis McAllister coming back from the World Cup with a lovely goal in that one for the visitors. But overall, I don't think Michael Carrick will be too upset. The focus is on the league. They've flown up the table into 5th place. And if they weren't scoring enough goals already with their 4-1s, their 3-1s, their 2-1s, they've now added Cameron Archer, who starred for Preston last year. If he can deliver his form as he did last season, Middlesbrough are going to be right in the mix. If one of those 2 at the top has a bad run, I'd be keeping a little eye on Borough. Millwall, very good side, always up in that playoff mix. They're in 6th at the moment, but away from home, they aren't generally the same side. A point a game, 12 from 12 for them on the road so far. Middlesbrough becoming far stronger at home under Carrick. I'm going to go for Middlesbrough 3, Millwall 1, because they do always concede a goal at the back, Borough. Next, it's Preston against David Wagner's Norwich, who makes his league debut in charge of the Canaries this weekend. Preston had back-to-back wins, that 1-0 very late on against Stoke in the league. That was such a fortunate victory because neither side deserved anything after their attacking intent. So it's a 0-0 draw on paper, but Preston nicked it, and so often this season they've managed to get results. By contrast, Norwich appointed David Wagner ahead of the Blackburn FA Cup tie. It didn't make a grand deal of difference to the result, but we'll look ahead to the league with optimism now. Preston have added a young striker in Tom Cannon. Definitely going forward is their weakness this year, and they have got one of the worst home records in the division. Only 3 wins from 13. Combined with that they've only scored 8 goals at home, and Preston probably sitting ducks here if Norwich find form. You've got to wonder if they're going to get a new manager bounce. They have been a bit better on the road this year, and most of their recent away games, take away the Luton one, they did manage to nick 1-0 wins. So I am going to go for Norwich to nick it. I am going to go by 1-0, and unless David Wagner turns up with a superstar miracle, I think this might be a game that the neutral wants to avoid. Next, we move on to Reading versus QPR, two sides that have been a little bit hit-miss and all over the place in recent weeks. Reading won in the FA Cup, a good performance at home to Watford, but only 1 point in the 2 away games prior, albeit against Norwich and West Brom, 2 of the expected top sides in the league. At home though, Reading have been a very different team. 4th best record, 8 wins from 12. They are really solid in front of their home fans. QPR, by contrast, doesn't quite look like it's taken off under Neil Critchley. There was a lot of excitement after the 1-0 win at Preston. The performance at Cardiff wasn't terrible, but a big defeat against Luton, held by Sheffield United, and then that shock against Fleetwood in the FA Cup. And things are starting to look like they're going in a downwards trajectory again. So it's going to be an important month for QPR in the transfer window. It's going to be an important game for them this, because with Reading so formidable at home, it could drag QPR into the bottom half of the league. As it is, I have to back Reading at home. They've been so consistent at their own ground, and I'm going to go by 1-0. I don't think it's going to be a great game again, but Reading, you just have to back them. On to one of the form teams in the division as Sheffield United host Stoke City. Stoke will be very happy to be away from home after back-to-back 1-0 home defeats against Burnley and Preston. That game against Preston was absolutely turgid to watch. I feel sorry for any fan in that stadium. They did win 3-0 at Hartlepool in the FA Cup though. Sheffield United with a good win at Millwall in the Cup. And before that, 5 league games unbeaten after the World Cup break. Second in the league with a 9-point buffer to Blackburn. They just look fantastic. 7 wins from 12 at home, second top scorers in front of their own fans after leaders Burnley, and they just look like a class act. However, Stoke have been very solid away from home this year, only beaten 5 times in 13, actually got a top 10 record on the road. It's their home form letting them down. So it is going to be a little bit tighter than expected. I could see Stoke playing for a draw, maybe trying to hit on the counter-attack, but I'm going to go for Sheffield United just to have enough. 2-1, maybe even a late winner. But I wouldn't be shocked if this one's a draw. Well, here comes a pretty tricky one to predict. It's Sunderland versus Swansea. Sunderland yet to replace Ellis Sims after he was recalled by Everton. A 1-1 draw on New Year's Day in the Championship, followed by a 2-1 win at Shrewsbury in the FA Cup. Swansea keeping possession against everyone, but held in the cup, defeated by Burnley, and aside from that big 4-0 win against Watford, it's only 1 win in 10 in all competitions. So a little bit of a tricky one to predict this. Sunderland did win some games prior, but they were away at Wigan, who everyone's beating, and at home to Blackburn, who aren't the best on the road. Swansea, though, are in 15th place. They are struggling to put teams away. I really don't know what to go for here. Everything is screaming in my head it's going to be a draw. Swansea are going to keep the ball. Sunderland are going to try and counter. If Sunderland can almost treat it like an away game, I think they've got a great chance. I'm going to bank on them to do so. Sunderland to win it by 3-2. I think this could be game of the weekend. And we finish with 2 of the sides that have probably been most active so far in the January transfer window. It's Watford hosting Blackpool. Blackpool got a brilliant 4-1 win against Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup. And Forest have done them more favours than that as well. Josh Bowler comes back on loan, a superstar in their survival last season. And if they're going to get out of trouble again this year, they're going to need him back to his very best. They have brought in 2 or 3 others as well. Morgan Rogers looks a very good young signing. Watford, they have been very busy. One from Udinese on loan as always, but 3 other additions in the first 2 weeks, and at the time of recording, Watford are starting to look like they're bolstering that squad. They've obviously had big injury issues, but that's happened to a number of sides in the Championship in the last 18 months. They did win away at Norwich, they got a crucial 1-0 victory there, and I don't think they'll be too upset to go out the cup on this occasion. After back-to-back defeats though and not scoring in the league, it was great to show resolve, it was great to show that grit away from home, and a 1-0 win was exactly what the doctor ordered. Blackpool haven't won in the league since we returned, but they have drawn most of their games 1 apiece, and away from home that used to be their favourite scoreline. The question is, do I go for it again? Blackpool have picked up more points on the road than at home this season, so if they're going to, you'd fancy it this time. Do you know what? I'm going to go for it. We'll finish with another Championship's favourite scoreline. Sorry Watford fans, I'm not being biased, but Blackpool to nick a 1-1 draw. And let's have a quick recap of what I've predicted for matchday 27 in the Championship. The big win is definitely Burnley by 3-0 at home to Coventry. Other than that, I've gone for quite a lot of low-scoring games, a couple of 1-0 wins and an awful lot of Championship favourite scorelines. But they're just my opinion. What do you think of them? If you agree or disagree, let me know down in the comments down there and give me your predictions for matchday 27. Remember, if you do beat my matchday score, you will get a shout out at the start of the next episode in the recap. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do chuck a thumbs up and subscribe for regular content from the podcast. If you missed anything over the last couple of weeks, you can find that up in the eye above, as well as our sponsor HelloFresh. Do check them out if you haven't already. It helps support the channel as well as giving you guys plenty of discounts for the first 4 weeks. And we'll be back here next weekend for Championship predictions. Going to be another big one, and I'll see you there for it.